Welcome to this little episode, this little mini episode of the Nintendo Chronicler. This one's a very light and fluffy episode, quite a short one, because the current video I'm working on, the next major video, is just taking a bit longer than I would like it to. I have a few videos currently in the works, and I expected some of them to be a bit faster than they actually were, and I didn't want to keep an actual video waiting for too long. And with Mario Kart, a series that I really enjoy, having just finished all of its DLC, I thought, you know what, it might be fun to do one of these tier list type videos that you like to see all over YouTube. A nice, quick and easy one, get my thoughts out there on the final state of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And because it's Mario Kart, the thing that's the most important about it are the tracks. So let's have a look at all 96 of them and rank them in a tier list. It'll be super fun to do this. So I've got them up here. Someone's made something on Tier Maker. I'm just going to use that. It'll be easier. And we're going to go through them all in order. And I've ranked these by, as you can see, iconic, great fun, enjoyable, okay, meh, bad, and just drive me away from here. I don't want to be around this track. And we'll see how my takes are. I've been playing this game a lot since the DLC dropped, trying to get 3 stars in every single cup. And unlocking the final golden pieces like the cart and the wheels and stuff. So I've played through all of these tracks over and over again recently, so I have thoughts about them. We'll just go in order. So let's start off with the basic one, Mario Kart Stadium. It's technically a stadium track, but it may as well be a circuit track instead in how simple it is. And yeah, you know what? This one's enjoyable. I think this one's an enjoyable track. It's pretty simple, but it gets the anti-grav thing across quite nicely. Obviously quite built for that, and there are quite a few nice twists and turns to it. Some places take some shortcuts. So yeah, I think Mario Kart Stadium is an enjoyable one. And on that same product, I think Water Park is also... it's a pretty enjoyable time. Depending on how this goes, I might move some of these down later, depending if the top 3 tiers end up getting a bit too full. But I would say Water Park is equally as good a track as Mario Kart Stadium. It's obviously more focused on the water mechanic, but I do like that you can hit the moving parts of the ride when you're underwater to speed up, and if you have a mushroom, you can take like a shortcut through the carousel. There's some good things on here. Next is Sweet Sweet Canyon, and this one I think it's okay. Sweet Sweet Canyon it's got the multiple choices in the middle that obviously take advantage of the anti-grav, but that's really about it. There's a nice shortcut you can take at the end if you have a mushroom when you're dodging all the piranha plants, but it doesn't really stand out as one I'd really be up for playing a lot. I mean, it's not bad at all, that's why I'm putting it in okay. But yeah, Sweet Sweet Canyon, it's an alright track, probably the weakest from the Mushroom Cup. And that means that Thwomp Ruins is going to be higher, because I think Thwomp Ruins is... Thwomp Ruins, that's surprisingly hard to say. I think this is a great track, actually. Big fan of this one. It's got a lot... I like how it changes on the second or maybe even third, depending on how fast you're going, run, where the rolling rock will knock down the middle part so you can glide across it. The thwomps make great hazards. It makes great use of the anti-grav to go on walls, and at the end when all of the elevation of all the tracks is all over the place. Like, Thwomp Ruins is just very fun. And I think it's like a great showcase of everything Mario Kart 8 has to offer. It even has a water section, although you rarely ever fall in it. So yeah, Thwomp Ruins, I think this is a great track. Next up then, we're now onto the Flower Cup, and we have Mario Circuit. And Mario Circuit, it's the typical Mario Circuit track. They come in lots of different flavors, and this one's obviously quite well known. It makes the figure 8. It's the Mobius strip, and it's in Super Smash Brothers as a stage. But that's not going to affect its ranking. Effectively, all it is a straight and some turns. The anti-grab thing is cool, like it's visually a cool stage, but in terms of actual track layout, there's not really a lot here to Mario Circuit. That's fine, it's one of the early tracks in the game, but that doesn't make it great at all. Next up is Toad Harbor, and I would say that Toad Harbor is another enjoyable track. Maybe... yeah, I'll put it above... no, you know what? I'll put it below Water Park and Mario Kart Stadium. Toad Harbor is a fun one. I really like the downhill... like, it's got a lot of elevation to it, right? You spend most of the first half of the track going up, then you got the wall at the top, and then you do a big drop at the end. And that big drop is really fun, especially if you come at it from off the wall. You can build up a lot of speed on there. It's got some great little moments in it. It's got the shortcut where if you're skilled enough, you can take the shorter route up. But I don't think it's... I wouldn't really say it's anything amazing. It's just got these little fun moments. I'm not a big fan of this beginning part, I guess. That's the part where I think it could be maybe a little bit better. And I never really take the big one. I think I always take the the shortcuts up to the top. So I don't even really remember what there's not really a lot to the big one. Twisted Mansion is up next, and I don't really have many strong feelings for Twisted Mansion. It's probably okay on the lower end. It's got some like the underwater section. It's got the wavy floors. In fact, I might even put Twisted Mansion under meh, because it's not really a stage I would actively seek out to play. If I'm playing through these again, it's better than Mario Circuit. It's got a more interesting route than Mario Circuit, but I do sort of feel like it just kind of ends. Like you go off a gliding section and turn a corner, and then you've got the knights that are hitting down, but they're pretty easy to dodge, and then it's just back to the start again. I don't know. I think there are better Haunted Mansion tracks in Mario Kart 8. Just Mario Kart in general. Maybe not Mario Kart 8. Actually, we'll see. But Shy Guy Falls is up next as the last track in the Flower Cup, and I think this one's a good track. I think I'm going to put this up here with great fun, just like Thwomp Ruins. Do I think it's better than Thwomp Ruins? I think it's more of a spectacle, because you obviously going up and down the waterfall is pretty cool. But I think I prefer Thwomp Ruins just slightly more for its level layout. But Shy Guy Falls is definitely the best track from the Flower Cup. Obviously, it's saving the best for last again. It really takes good advantage of the anti-grav. There's quite a few neat little routes and shortcuts you can take in the final stretch. It can get quite chaotic as the item boxes are moving to you along the water, and you're fighting with people to get it, bouncing into everyone and getting a speed boost that way. Yeah, Shy Guy Falls is pretty great. I like that one. Alright, Dolphin Shoals is up next, and this might be our first bad track. I'm not a big fan of Dolphin Shoals. The majority of it is underwater, and that's not bad on its own, but it's just a bit boring. It has a couple jumps near the start, and the inside part with the cave with the warp pipes that blow you up and then you ride the eel along, like that's probably the best part of the track. But it's so short, and the pipes can be really annoying, especially if you're playing this on 200cc. Like, I'm factoring that sort of into this, where you can go flying off in a distance. Absolutely insane airtime you can get. But again, it's clearly not designed with that in mind, so you can very easily just miss a warp pipe and fall to your death. Yeah, the end part of Dolphin Shoals as well, after you've done the eel, is pretty boring. So yeah, I don't think Dolphin Shoals is a very good track. Alright, next up on the Star Cup, we have Sunshine Airport, which is down here for some reason. But Sunshine Airport, I think... See, I used to think this was a great track, but over time, I think it's not as good as I initially thought it was. The concept is great. I think driving around an airport, I'm going to put it above Sweet Sweet Canyon. Driving around an airport is a really cool setting for a track. And I think there's some neat stuff at the start, like going in between the airplane legs and going through that one plane, and when you're gliding down at the end and the plane is coming towards you, it's a great visual. But I actually don't think it's that interesting of a track from its actual layout and the hazards and stuff there. Like, the airplane running at you is cool, but it can't actually hit you, so you're safe. It's got like a twirl at the end that's just kind of there. It's suspended on this weird floating set piece, not even set piece, floating platform. And I don't like, even though it's cool that you can drive through the plane or just drive under the plane, I don't think it makes a massive difference which one you do. I wouldn't call the top one a shortcut, really. They're pretty much about the same in speed, so it's really just doing the top one to do the top one. I don't know, the more I played Sunshine Airport, the more I realised it's kind of a bit of a boring track that's very much held up by its aesthetics. So yeah, I'm putting that in the okay. However, if the aesthetic is good enough, you can get a pretty iconic track from that, and that's where Electrodrome comes in. Electrodrome is a banger of a track. The first iconic track we have is easily one of the most recognisable from this game, one of the more unique ones, being inside like a nightclub. I like how the track splits into two for like the majority of it. The track layout itself is a lot of turns and some straights, but it's held up really well by the visuals this time, the aesthetics of it. And I think having the two tracks going side by side and then like above each other, very F-Zero, like, so you can see the drivers who are on the other track above you. It does what I think Mario Circuit 8 tries to do, but better. So I think Electrodrome is a fantastic track. And another fantastic track is Mount Wario, the first track we have that's just one long lap, technically. And this is just a cool track. In fact, I think it might even be better than Electrodrome. It might even be the best track. In fact, yeah, no, just looking down, it is the best track from the base roster for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. It's so cool as Mount Wario. This whole slalom, skiing, snowboarding, whatever, down the mountain. You go through lots of different visual elements. You've got the canyon at the start, and then you're going across the dam, and then into the snowy woods, and then into an actual skiing thing at the end where everyone just dashes down. It's got loads of different elements and obstacles. You've got the more traditional skiing where you go side by side, which is what stuff like DK Mountain, Snowboard 1 from Wii did. But then you go through the flags that the skiers do, and then you get the actual slalom jump at the end that goes into a glide. Mount Wario is just such a cool track. Love it. So that's the end of the Star Cup. So the Star Cup's quite an odd mix of having two of like the best tracks in the game, but also like one middling track and one just the first bad track as well. It's interesting. Next up then, with the Special Cup, and I think Cloud Top Cruise is another great track. Do I think it's better than Shy Guy Falls? No. Cloud Top Cruise is great. The music is awesome. Remix of the Mario from Gusty Garden Galaxy and Mario Galaxy. But it's got a lot of neat things. I like driving along the clouds, bouncing on the pads. Going onto Bowser's ship and being blasted out of a cannon is super cool, and then the whole inside a big Nimbus cloud as it rains lightning down, and you've got to speed along the boost pass while avoiding the ones being struck by lightning. That's cool. That's just a very cool visual, and it's a great start to the final cup of the original Mario Kart 8 base roster. The Cloud Trop Cruise... In fact, you know what? Now that I've talked about it more, I might even put Cloud Trop Cruise above Thwomp Ruins and Shy Guy Falls. It's actually really cool visually and has a great layout. On the opposite end of the spectrum is Bone Dry Ruins, Bone Dry Dunes even, which I think might be the worst track in this game. It's just... Desert tracks are always a bit whatever in my opinion, but this one's just not great visually and isn't great layout wise either. Like, the best part of it is where you get multiple choices about whether you go on the anti-grav and get the higher launch, or if you stay on the lower track, which I almost never do, so I can't even really comment on it that much. But then you're meant to try and be able to fly onto the upper path, and it's really awkward, you can barely ever make it, and it's an immediate left turn. But because of the speed you're going with gliding, you'll almost always overshoot it. And yeah, the obstacles, you got the skeleton, you got the dry bones and the skeleton piranha plants, and they're fine, but they're nothing that no other track has. Other tracks have done things like this before. Yeah, Bone Dry Dunes just doesn't appeal to me. Bowser's Castle, though. Bowser's Castle here is a pretty good Bowser's Castle. Yeah, you know, I'll put it in. Yeah. I think I'll put it to the top of enjoyable. I think Bowser's Castle here is pretty great. It's the big giant statue of Bowser that punches either of the routes that you can take is obviously very iconic. And the fact, again, multiple routes, that seems to be a common theme in these good tracks. So that's pretty great. The gliding at the end and dodging the boulders, like, there's a lot of hazards coming at you one after another, and I think they're all really good. There's like a great rising energy to this track before it restarts. So yeah, Bowser's Castle, this is probably one of the better Bowser's Castle in the whole series, actually, now that I've said all this out loud. So top of enjoyable, that's where it goes. Rainbow Road, on the other hand, Rainbow Road 8 might be one of the worst Rainbow Roads. Is it bad? Or is it just meh? You know, I'll put it at the bottom of meh. Like, it's a Rainbow Road, and Rainbow Road tracks are always fun and a bit chaotic. But I think the aesthetics of this one are really boring. Just being like a satellite that has like the changing conveyor belts. And that changing conveyor belt thing isn't that interesting of a hazard at all. It's very easy to dodge it, and it's like the main focus of this track. The best part of this Rainbow Road is the very end where you can jump, where the platforms the two routes, again, it's two routes, but they sort of intertwine with each other, so you can jump off one and land on the other. And landing that is always great. You can get some, it's like a great shortcut to take, especially if you've got the mushrooms, although it's very easy to overshoot it on 200cc and then you just miss entirely and fall off. But that's kind of the only thing this Rainbow Road has going for it. And compared to all the other Rainbow Roads in the series, I think it's pretty lackluster. So it's going at the bottom of meh. Alright, that does it for all the base tracks for Mario Kart 8, for the new ones anyway, so let's get some retro ones down next. And we're gonna start with Moo Moo Meadows on the Wii, and as a first track, it's okay, I guess. I guess that puts it in okay. Like, I gotta think of the context, right, about how these tracks are used. Like, Moo Moo Meadows isn't exactly the most exciting track, it's a very simple track. You just dodge cows at the start, you go off a gliding ramp and dodge a bunch of Monty Moles, and then you're back at the start. But it's also like one of the beginner tracks, just like Mario Kart Stadium. It's not as cool as Mario Kart Stadium, it doesn't take advantage of the anti-grav at all. But it's not, like, terrible. These stages have to kind of exist, and so I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt on that and put it in okay. Mario Circuit is up next, and Mario Circuit would be a meh track, but I like what they did with the anti-grav. It's a very simple one. I'll probably put it above Moo Moo Meadows. It's a very simple change. Just having this tiny corner of the track, this U-turn, be elevated so that it can be anti-grav. But for whatever reason, it makes like all the difference to the excitement of this track. So I'll put Mario Circuit here in okay. I think it's a neat change. It also looks kind of cool visually. Cheap Cheap Beach. Cheap Cheap Beach is also just okay. I'll probably put it above... No, I'll put it below Mario Circuit, but above Moo Moo Meadows. Yeah, Cheap Cheap Beach isn't exactly the most exciting of tracks. You just drive around. I mean, you drive around all of them. That was really stupid. You ride on the pier at the start and then go off, and then that's all fine. But once you get to the beach, it's clearly got a path to follow, but you can just skip that path entirely and go straight if you want, and that's fun. But it doesn't make it just basically how it feels is it's dropped you in a big wide area where you just have to drive, and it's probably faster to follow the path, but there's nothing exciting that happens there. And then once you get to the end, there's also, again, no real obstacles at the end of it either. You just do like 2 U-turns, and then eventually get a jump at the end, a couple little mini jumps. It's not really an exciting track in and of itself, so that one goes there. Toad's Turnpike, on the other hand, I've always liked Toad's Turnpike. I grew up playing Mario Kart 64, so I have a bit of a bias for all of those tracks. I think a lot of them are pretty great, even if the game itself hasn't held up very well. I'll put it nicely. But Toad's Turnpike has been a track I've always enjoyed. Just dodging the traffic, weaving in and out of it, or in this case, going up on the walls to avoid all of it, is pretty good. And the different cars now have the ability to have glider pads on the back of them, so you can launch yourself off that way. Get some really great airtime and tricks and stuff off of the cars. Yeah, Toad's Turnpike is pretty good in this game. I really enjoyed it. I think it's definitely better than it was in Mario Kart 64, where it was already good. Next up is Dry Dry Desert, and again, it's another desert track, and I'm not a big fan of them already, but I don't know if I'd say it's bad. Maybe on the lower end of meh. It's got the... No, you know what, actually, I do like the Oasis part at the end. I'm going to put it on the upper end of meh. Now, they've turned that section that was just a bit of a boring open area in the original, and they've put it underwater and had these, little pockets of air that blast you up so you can jump over them. I think that's pretty neat. But I think the beginning of it's a bit boring. The whirlpool of sand that happens midway, it's an interesting hazard. I think it worked better in Double Dash than it does here. It's pretty easy to avoid here, so yeah. Dry Dry Desert, you're going in the meh section. Donut Plains 3, the only SNES track from the base roster. It's also, again, it's kind of like Moo Moo Meadows. You know what, I'll give it higher than Moo Moo Meadows and higher than Cheap Cheap Beach. I'll put it next to Mario Circuit, because while the track layout itself is sort of whatever, I do like the visual upgrade they've given to Donut Plains. It's always fun seeing these SNES tracks, but built up and looking far more detailed nowadays, because of taking a full advantage of the graphics. It'll be interesting when we get to Mario Circuit 3 from the SNES one, the Booster Course Pack ones, and see if my opinions kind of alters from that, because that game obviously has those courses obviously have quite a different rendering style and texturing style to their courses. But Donut Plains 3 is an alright track. I like some of the changes they have done to it. So yeah, it goes in the okay. Alright, Royal Raceway. I think this is another iconic track. I really like Royal Raceway. It was fun in the 64, in Mario Kart 64, but I really like what they've done with it here. The sakura blossoms on the trees create a really nice pink colour. In fact, the whole track has a really good pink overtone to it all, because it's obviously meant to be Peach's circuit, technically, even though it's called Royal Raceway. I really like what they've done with the gliding section now, which was originally obviously just a big jump in the original game, but they've now put hot air balloons that you can glide around. You can't drive to Peach's castle itself anymore, which is a shame, but it's expected. But this, I don't know, Royal Raceway just has such a good vibe to it, and I think it's paced really well. It's definitely one of the better 64 tracks, so I would put it up here in the iconic category. Another one, the next one is enjoyable. It's DK Jungle. I'd put it after Bowser's Castle. DK Jungle is a fun one. I like that it's based on Donkey Kong Country Returns. I think it's got some good sections to it towards the end, like the whole ruin section. I think it's great. I just think the beginning part of it, where you're just sort of driving through the jungle, is whatever. Like, there could be something a bit more interesting in there. But I like the choice on the final turn. Do you keep going and go along the walls and then throw yourself off, or do you try and make that short, quick turn on the more riskier path? I think that's a pretty good choice to have, and it's quite short, and it's not too difficult to do. It's not like Shy Guy Falls, where that shortcut at the end is actually not that easy to pull off. But yeah, DK Jungle, I think this is a good track. I'll put it in under enjoyable. Wario Stadium DS, I think, is another enjoyable track. I'll put it on... I might put it above DK Jungle, actually. I think Wario Stadium DS has a lot more going on for it. It's the stadium track with all the mud that slows you down, and you've got to jump from the little spots of drivable terrain across that one section in the middle. But I like the anti-grav thing that they've done here, where you're driving along and then you go along the chain link fence as it turns up and you got to dodge the fire, and then the water section at the end makes for a nice change of pace as well. You know what, actually, I think I might even put Wario Stadium under great fun. I think it's one of the better Wario Stadiums. I don't remember a lot of how the original DS one played, but all these tweaks they put to this version of it have really elevated it. Okay, Sherbet Land. I think this one is also just okay. Wouldn't put it above. I'll put it here. I think this is a good spot for it. I'm kind of ambivalent to Sherbet Land. In fact, I kind of forget it's here a lot of the time. Which makes me think maybe I should put it in meh or bad, but it's also not like offensive or anything. The choice at the end of going above the water or under the water is neat, but it's always better to go underwater, and I like that they've given that option now to the start of the track, where in the original GameCube it wasn't that. It was just you just got lackey-too'd out if you fell underwater at that in that section. So those are like neat changes, but it's otherwise not that visually interesting. Like the ice tunnel that you go through is kind of whatever. And then it's just a giant lake. The freezies are great obstacles, though. I enjoy them being on there. But of course, the problem with that is, because it's always better to go underwater, you basically skip them all anyway. So they're never actually a problem. You have to go out of your way to actually make the freezies an issue. So yeah, that's going down there. Alright, Music Park, another iconic track. I think it's better than Electrodrome. Music Park is such a good track. Melody Motorway, as we call it over here in the UK. A lot of its obviously aesthetics are really good on this one, with the musical notes and the piano keys, and you drive along and it makes the noise, it makes like the sound of piano keys being pressed, the spotlights on the piranha plants, but even just the layout as well is very good. There's a lot of big turns, like big corners that you can build up a lot of drift on, and then shorter areas where you have to be a lot more precise with how you turn, the big glide at the end, and then a shortcut to where you bounce along the drums. Music Park's a great track, actually. Really enjoyed having this one here. So yeah, that's iconic. Yoshi Valley, I like Yoshi Valley in the original 64, but it's not as good here. I'm going to put it at the bottom of enjoyable. It's not as good in this game because you're no longer confused about where you are, which means that the direction you go is basically always going to be fixed. It's only if you're new to this track that it will be confusing. Once you've figured out the layout, it's pretty easy to know where to go. I do like that the route, the fastest route in this version, is different from how it was in the Nintendo 64 version. Like, they've altered the track in little subtle ways to change which way is the best route, which is nice. But yeah, Yoshi Valley, not as good, but still fun. I mean, I'm a big sucker for anything Yoshi, to be honest, so that's probably disguising. That's probably affecting my biases here somewhat. But yeah, I'll put it in the bottom of enjoyable. TikTok Clock. TikTok Clock is another iconic track. I'm going to put it just below Royal Raceway. I like tracks that are references to actual things in the game, and obviously this being a reference to the Super Mario 64 level is pretty neat. But it's also just a good track in terms of layout and obstacles and aesthetics. the big clock where you can do tricks off of the minute and hour hands, the pendulums that you have to dodge, the gliding section where you want to avoid landing on the gears, or make it so that when you do land on the gears, you're going to be landing in the direction they're spinning, because they change every lap. So you need to be like careful around that. The anti-grav sections, and there's just a lot going on TikTok Clock, and it's all adds to the stage. So yeah, I like TikTok Clock. One I don't like, though, is a Piranha Plant Slide. Drive me away from that. I really don't like Piranha Plant Slide. I didn't like it in the 3DS version. I don't like it in Mario Kart Tour, and I don't like it here. This is probably the best version of it, mainly because it's wider at the end. But I don't know. It's just not an interesting track to me. You spend most of it inside of a pipe, going on a very flat surface, being carried along by the water with the occasional obstacle. Then you have to do two really sharp turns where you can very easily fall off, and then you get to the actual interesting underwater anti-grav section. But even that, it's just a straight with that slightly bent. Like, I don't even know if I'd call it a turn because it's too wide for that. You can technically drift across it, but you can also just drive straight. So, yeah, Piranha Plant Slide is pretty lacking. It says a lot when I think the best part of it is that very last turn when you're back outside, and a lot of that is because it's just very 3D land core. So yeah, Piranha Plant Slide, you can drive me away from that. Grumble Volcano is up next, and I don't think this is a good stage. It's going in the bad section. So the best part of the stage is the fact that it changes per route. I think that is a very cool mechanic, because it gets you used to the stage, and then it makes it more difficult as it goes along. And not many tracks actually do something that fun with their level gimmick. But the actual track layout itself is pretty meh. Like, it's very forgettable. It's basically straights with the occasional turn until the very last moment, where you then glide over a bunch of sections and then get a choice of going up or to the side, where you'd always try and pick up because it's clearly the better route and it's not that hard. So there's no real reason to go down on the lower route. So the choice there is pretty unbalanced. Yeah, and visually, just aesthetically, yeah, cool, it's a volcano that changes, but there's not really much there to it. It's just a volcano. It's not like a Bowser volcano or a volcano that's a reference to another game. It's just a volcano. So yeah, Grumble Volcano, I'm going to put that in the bad section. The bad tier. Rainbow Road 64. I really want to put this really high because I'm a big fan of Rainbow Road 64. But I'm going to put it to the top of okay. And that's because visually it's great. I really like a lot of the additions they've done. Actually, no, I'm gonna put it here in enjoyable. I really like the visuals of Rainbow Road 64. I like that they added the train. I like how the chain chomps have been reutilized, so that they're not just going across the track but are now bouncing up and down it. I think the turns are pretty great in it. There's a lot of good opportunities for items. And the fireworks are obviously really pretty. My problem with it is that the final section of it gets a bit boring because it's a lot of just flats. There's no movement to the track. There's no ups or downs. There's no obstacles. You're just rising ever so slowly and making turns. And it's super short. I know that the original was super long, so they wanted to make it just a one-lap track like Mount Warrior this time. But I think they should have made it 2 laps, because 1 lap is just way too short. It's very easy to sort of get behind in this track and have no chance of catching up because there are basically no obstacles in the final part. It's just about staying on the track, which isn't that hard to do. So yeah, Rainbow Road 64 should be iconic, but it's just not with how they've done it here. So it just goes under enjoyable. And that's the base roster for Mario Kart 8 done and out of the way. How long did that take me? Oh boy. Oh no. Let's speed up through some of these, I guess. Yoshi Circuit. Yoshi Circuit is another iconic track. Again, Yoshi bias going on here, but the fact that it's in the shape of Yoshi is pretty neat, and there's some cool shortcuts to it. Jumping through the waterfall is always fun, a lot of turns. I really like this track, I've always really liked this track. I think it might have been the first track I ever played in Double Dash, and it's stuck with me since then. But I can't reasonably put it over the others because I don't think there's not really any obstacles to it. There's the piranha plants that you can skip with the mushroom, and that's pretty cool. You know, the more I think about this, I think maybe I'll put TikTok Clock over Royal Raceway as well. But yeah, Yoshi Circuit on the lower end of iconic, but still iconic. Speaking of exciting stuff, Excite Bike Arena, gonna put that under great fun. The Excite Bike Arena is just a very simple loop, circle, oval, however you want to call that shape. But all the jumps and how they're randomly placed is pretty fun, and it makes it exciting. Like, it's just a very exciting track because you're constantly launching yourself up into the sky, and doing tricks and gaining speed, and yeah, it's got that same energy that Baby Park has, but the tricks just add to it and make it all the more exciting, and that makes it a lot of fun. Also, I'm the Nintendo Chronicler. I like it when it references other Nintendo things. So I have a bias for the visual style of this as well. Dragon Driftway is also another good track, but I don't think it's great fun. I think I'd put it in enjoyable. Below Bowser's Castle, I like that most of it is in anti-grav. I think there's some cool jumps to it, some nice twists and turns on this track. But I don't think there's... the music's pretty good, actually. But there could be just a little bit more that would push it into great fun. Maybe some obstacles, maybe something more interesting on some of these turns. I don't know, with Dragon Driftway, it feels like so much of the focus is on the anti-grav that you really need to have the most fun with it when you're racing alongside other people and not too far out at the front or too far in the back. Like, you want to be bouncing off of everyone, and I maybe it's just because of me. Maybe I'm too good at Mario Kart. I end up at the front, and then people can't catch up to me, or I'm not hitting anyone. I'm not taking full advantage of the anti-grav. Just repositioning myself in my chair. Yeah, Dragon Driftway, enjoyable. Mute City, it's a good track. I'll put it in enjoyable as well. Better than Dragon Driftway, not as good as Bowser's Castle. Obviously, it's another reference track. Mute City is F-Zero is an obvious one to reference it. It's very fast, which is great. But once you strip that away from it, once you strip the visuals away, once you strip how fast-paced it is, the track layout itself is kind of okay. I don't think it does anything particularly exciting. It's just some turns, and not even very sharp turns, other than that very last one. Mainly because it has to keep up with the speed you're going at. But I think the booster pads are all laid out pretty well to keep that speed up. So yeah, I'm just going to put it slightly unenjoyable. I think the other F-Zero track is better when we get to that. Wario's Gold Mine. Wario's Gold Mine is another really enjoyable track. Could it be? No, I don't think it's going to be a great fun track. I think Wario's Gold Mine, it's got good. I like the elevation you get, the ups and downs at the start and the final section of it. And I think where they've added the anti-grav where you can bounce off the minecarts is super cool. But otherwise, it's whatever. It's got very good music, actually. Wario's Gold Mine has very good music. I should bring that up. And I think Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has done a great job visually overhauling that Wario's Gold Mine to make it visually enjoyable. But that whole middle section, even though the anti-grav part is fun when you're riding on the tracks, is kind of forgettable. So in terms of layout anyway, I guess visuals and the mechanics is not that forgettable. I'm having a hard time with this one, but I think where I've put it is right. I'm just having a hard time articulating myself. Rainbow Road SNES. I think this one is just okay, but the top of okay. I think maybe it's because Tor has influenced my opinion on this a bit more because it appears a lot in Tor. But I think the track layout for Rainbow Road is pretty neat. It's obviously it's a Super Nintendo track. It's mostly flat, but I like how the thwomps. I like the color of the thwomps for starters, but I like how the thwomps cause the tracks to sort of wave, and you can do tricks and jumps off of that. The added jumps in the middle section are also pretty neat, and it's not too long either. I don't know. It's I think they've done a very good job of overhauling it. That's also part of the appeal. So yeah, Rainbow Road SNES. It's okay. It's still it would be higher if the track layout was maybe a little more exciting, but that's the problem with it being an SNES track. Ice Ice Outpost is another okay track. I'll put it just behind Rainbow Road. Again, it's a track where you can pick both two different routes, but they're next to each other, so it's very easy to jump between the two. And while it's pretty unique for an ice track in just how its aesthetics are, you're not really driving along the snow at all. You're driving along all the ice. You're driving along these, whatever they're meant to be, this pathway that's going around. But it's just a couple turns and then a section at the end that blasts you back to the start. There's not when I sit down and I really think about the way this track is laid out, it's a workable track. It does what it needs to do, but it doesn't really leave anything. It doesn't leave a very long-lasting impression in my mind. All right, Hyrule Circuit, and Hyrule Circuit is probably also just okay, actually. Blinded by my love of all the other Nintendo properties, I feel like now that I'm sitting here and really thinking about Hyrule Circuit, I think its visual aesthetics is really the main thing it has going for it. There's a cool little puzzle where halfway through where if you hit the 3 diamonds you can create a quick jump shortcut over the Master Sword, but like actually pulling that off is really hard and I usually never do. And then the end part of it and the beginning part of it are just some turns across like planes that aren't that exciting. Although I think the end part with the Deku Barbars is a nice touch to just elevate that section of it a little bit. And I like them using the Deku Barbars to take advantage of the Piranha Plant code they already had. That's pretty neat. I think the best part of it though is probably just the gliding towards a Hyrule Circuit, Hyrule Castle itself. But it's a pretty simple track actually. I think it's just one carried a lot by its visuals. Okay, Baby Park. Baby Park is bad in Mario Kart 8. I like that it's an anti-grav. I mean, it's better than it is in Mario Kart DS, that's for sure. But it still lacks the same... Actually, no. No, you know what? I'm going to bump it up to the top of meh. Because the one thing, because obviously the big problem that Baby Park has is that it's really good in Double Dash because of how big all the items are, how many items are being flung around all the time. You can throw a giant banana peel behind you and then it'll be there in like 2 seconds when you turn around and go back to the same spot you were on. And chain chomps are flying everywhere. Like, it works when there's so many items there, and that's why it didn't work in Mario Kart DS, because they removed all that and then it was just a circle. It was really boring. Baby Park, because it's all in anti-grav, has this extra advantage where you can now just collide with everybody and get speed boosts that way, and that makes it a bit more chaotic, and drifting and stuff is also different when you're on anti-grav. So that all helps to make it a bit more exciting. The visual overhaul in Baby Park is also really good. But, yeah, it's still a track without the items, without all the chaotic items. Once you get ahead, it's pretty easy to stay ahead in Baby Park still. So yeah, I don't think it's that great. Cheeseland. Cheeseland is a much better track now than it was on the Game Boy Advance, which is pretty easy because the Game Boy Advance Super Circuit sucks ass. I will put it at the bottom of enjoyable, because while Cheese Circuit isn't as good as the other Game Boy Advance track that got an overhaul in the DLC, I like what they've done to it, but that ending section, once you get past the chain chomp, the massive chain chomp, I don't think it's great. You really need an item in order to get the glide pad to actually make the most of that section. Otherwise, it's kind of a pretty boring couple of turns while avoiding the chain chomp. And it always feels kind of crappy if you weren't prepared enough to be able to take the upper route in Cheeseland. So I think that, for me, that brings it down a little bit. But I think the beginning part of Cheeseland is great. All the little jumps going through the little cheese canyon, and the visual aesthetics of Cheeseland are on point. That's great. Wildwoods. Wildwoods is a good stage. It's kind of like the successor to Shy Guy Falls. Is it as good as Shy Guy Falls, though? See, this is where I start debating whether or not I've put some of these a bit too high or not. Wildwoods... Yeah. I'm iffy about it, so I don't want to necessarily put it under Great Fun, but I think it's better than Dragon Driftway. I think it's better than Mute City as well. Is it better than Mute City? Yeah, you know what? I think it's better than Mute City. I think Wildwood starting in Anti-Grav, starting sideways is really cool. And then I think how you sort of come down the tree and ride the water slide down the end, and you got all the little toads living in the toad tree houses and stuff. Like, the aesthetics of Wildwoods are on point. But even the track layout itself, I think, is pretty good. There's the section in the beginning where you can choose which route you want to take, and there's also a cheeky shortcut at the end if you've got a mushroom. I think coming down the water slide into this big open area where you can just drive straight forward, but you want to aim for the lily pads because they're slightly faster and had some boost pads on it. And the wooden section in the middle where you can drift around. Yeah, you know what, the more I talk about Wildwoods, the more I think it actually is great fun. I might just put it next to Shy Guy Falls. Wildwoods is pretty good. Wildwoods is probably the best original track from that DLC, not Cat and Excite Bike Arena, which obviously leaves Animal Crossing, which is just okay again. I'll put it behind Hyrule Circuit. Like, the different changes to the visuals, depending on the seasons, are nice. But the track itself, its layout is kind of whatever. It obviously drives around the entirety of the Animal Crossing town, so you get the beach, and you got the houses section and the shop district, and you drive through trees, and you can pick up fruit to get speed boost. Like, that's pretty neat. But the actual layout itself, yeah, it's kind of whatever. It's kind of just a thing. I mean, that doesn't... I know that's... I'm not articulating myself the best here, because I don't have a script or anything. But, yeah, there's nothing massively exciting about it. Like, it's a pretty competent track layout. I think that's the best way to put it. It's a fairly competent layout for a track, but there's nothing super exciting that happens in it. You're really just there for the cozy vibes, and that's fine, but I don't think that makes for, like, the best tracks. It just makes for okay tracks. Okay, Neo Bowser City. I really like Neo Bowser City. I know a lot of people don't. I do. It's going in the Great Fun section. I'll put it after Toad's Turnpike. I always like Neo Bowser City, even in, or just Koopa City, as it's called over here. I always liked it in 3DS, and I really enjoy it here on Mario Kart 8 as well. The visuals are awesome. It's such a different Bowser-themed level than what we're used to, not just fire and volcanoes and stuff. And yeah, it can be hard in the middle with the turns, but I think it's super satisfying to get across them without falling off, which is doable, despite what some people might say. Yeah, I think Neo Bowser City is pretty cool. Now, Ribbon Road. This is an iconic track. They managed to turn what was an alright... I mean, I'm going to put it above TikTok clock. They managed to turn what was like an alright Game Boy Advance track into like such a cool visual track that's not too frustrating to race on, but not boring either, with some great new hazards, a great section at the end with the ribbons that you can do tricks off of, the parts where all of the clown car Jack-in-the-Boxes appear. Yeah, Ribbon Road is just really good. It's easily the best DLC track from the original Mario Kart 8. So yeah, I think they've done a really good job. It should be the standard of what Game Boy Advance tracks do when they get upgraded, which we'll talk about a lot more once we get to the booster course pack. Super Bell Subway was the last original track, and I think it's probably the worst of them. Do I think, not including the crossover ones, do I think it's okay or do I think it's enjoyable? Dodging trains is alright. In 200cc, this course is a nightmare, actually. Is it better than Ice Ice Alp? Yeah, no, you know what? I don't think it is. I think Super Bell Subway isn't great, actually. I mean, it's okay. I wouldn't say it's meh or bad. But having played this track quite a lot, especially on 200cc, I really don't think it's that. I think like the whole underground section where you're dodging trains, it's a neat idea and a neat obstacle, but I think it's just a bunch of minor turns. And then the final section where you go out when you eventually leave the train tracks is just like a sharp left, and then a do I go around this or try and cut across the grass section? Do I do a almost full circle or take a shortcut? And it's almost, unless you have a mushroom, you never take the shortcut because it'll always slow you down too much. But yeah, it's not really one. It's always the one I forget from the original DLC. So and that's probably an issue. That's a big issue. Big Blue is great fun. I'm gonna put Big Blue. I might even put it to the top of great fun. Big Blue is the better F-Zero track. It's another 1-1 like Mount Wario single lap track, but it goes through lots of cool different just ideas. The conveyor belt section towards the end is pretty great, and also having multiple choices again throughout. You get 2 sections of that in this one. You can take a shortcut in one of those where you can just like skip a good portion of the track if you've got a mushroom, or if you're just playing 200cc, you can do it naturally. The turns where you're powering up, it's like at the beginning you're trying to just gain up boost power by going on the stuff, and then so that in the second half of the track you can just go all out and try and go as fast as possible to try and make it to the end before anyone else does. So I think Big Blue is a pretty great track. Alright, that's it for all the base tracks for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and technically Mario Kart 8 with DLC. And we're halfway through, nearly, at least from my audio recording, 50 minutes in. Great stuff. I'll probably edit some of this down. Let's go on to the booster course pack, shall we? Paris Promenade. We're getting into the tour tracks as well. And the tour tracks are iffy. I've got a obviously weird relationship with the tour tracks because I actually like Mario Kart Tour, so I know how they play in there. And in some of these cases, I think that Booster Course Pass has made them better, and in other cases, I think they've made them worse. But let's start with Paris Promenade, and I think Paris Promenade is I think it's an enjoyable track. I think the base layout, I'd put it below Cheeseland. No, I'll put it after behind Toad Harbor. I think what makes Paris Promenade better than or at least an enjoyable track is that it doesn't try to shift things until the very last turn. In the first 2 laps, you go the normal route, and it's a pretty decent route, which gets you across through the Eiffel Tower. You've got a choice of do you go the longer route but with items, or the shorter route where you can dodge the warp pipes but it's faster. There's the Piranha Plant hazard, and it's not too bad. And then when you get to the 3rd turn, that's when things change. And obviously if you don't expect it and you drive, especially because it's the first tour track a lot of people played, your instinct would be to drive the same thing you've done for the first 2, and that can be frustrating. But once you know about this and you get to do the track in reverse and get to drive into oncoming players and stuff, I think that's a really cool idea. And because Paris Promenade's like the first one to do that, I think it's I think it does it well. It also doesn't do these changes too much, because once you've made that 1 turn back, that's it. Then you're just going straight back. There's no extra turns thrown in to confuse you. And I think that's good, because that's a big issue that a lot of the later ones have. Toad Circuit is meh. I don't know if I'd say it's bad. It's fine. It's just a bit boring. That's all. It's the first track from Mario Kart 7, so it's designed to be a Moo Moo Meadows or or sort of thing, or a figure 8 circuit. But Toad Circuit just doesn't have much there. The best part about it is the ending section after the glide, where if you've got mushrooms you can skip a turn by jumping. That's great, but everything building up to that is kind of It's nothing super exciting. And visually, yeah, I think people were crapping on the visuals of Mario Booster Course Pass a bit too much at the start, but Toad Circuit is by far the weakest looking track in the whole game, because obviously the Booster Course Pack's got a lot better in its visuals, and the Toad Circuit remained kind of meh. Although, speaking of improved visuals, Choco Mountain 64 is really good in this one. You might even say it's iconic. Maybe that's 64 bias coming through. I really like what they've done with Choco Mountain. Choco Mountain in the original 64 was kind of boring visually. It was just a valley, and the most interesting part was the end, because you could fall off the cliff and have to redo that circle again, which made it quite dangerous. They've removed that ability to fall off, but in exchange, they've opened it up. It's no longer a valley. You're driving along the side of a mountain, and the cave section is no longer just a boring cave. It's like an actual mine, and you go off of a rickety track over to the falling boulder parts, and there are now markings and signs warning you of the falling boulders. Choco Mountain is just really cool now. In fact, I might put it over Royal Raceway just because the glow up has impressed me so much in this. I really like Choco Mountain in this game. I think it's pretty good. Coconut Mall is next. Coconut Mall was always an iconic track, though. It's better than Choco Mountain. Coconut Mall was great in Mario Kart Wii. It was a bit worse in Mario Kart 7. But it's still great here. You know what? I might even put it after Mount Wario. Coconut Mall was my most played track at one point in this game. The music is great. The theming is great. The cars obviously don't move back and forth, but that doesn't bother me as much as it does bother some other people. There's a lot of great places to do tricks from, the fountains and all that, and that section where you do the sharp turn, where you drift, and they've now got a Mario Brothers mural, Super Mario Brothers mural. That's cool. There's just a lot of really cool things in Coconut Mall. I think it's on par with Mount Wario. I'll be interested to see if anything can beat Mount Wario. It's held that high position for quite a while now. Tokyo Blur. Tokyo Blur is another track from Tour that I think is enjoyable. I think it's maybe a bit better than Paris Promenade, simply because Tokyo Blur has a bit more variety in its actual course layout. It does have more of the turns that I said I didn't like, where the second lap changes which direction you need to move, and doesn't indicate it properly. But Tokyo Blur, Tokyo Blurs aren't that bad. They're pretty obvious to see when the turns happen. And that you always go through like the same starting section, and the turns aren't super sudden. So you have a lot of build up for them. I think that makes Tokyo Blur a lot more manageable. I think Tokyo Blur is a pretty enjoyable track, more than Paris Promenade, just because it has a bit more going on. Shroom Ridge. Shroom Ridge is actually a great track. I was surprised. It was a track I did not remember. And then it came back. I'm going to put it at the bottom of Great Fun. And then it came back, and it was actually really good. It's got all the same traffic dodging from Toad's Turnpike. It's got a new shortcut towards the end where you can jump off of a propeller and blast yourself over cars. Yeah, the music's good. Yeah, it's a very simple track. But I think it's fun. I think it's a fun one to race around. It's a fun one to dodge traffic on. I actually think Shroom Ridge, they've done a good job here. Now, Sky Garden. Oh, Sky Garden. It's going to have to go in bad. It might even go at the bottom of bad. I don't think it's, like, awful, but they have ruined it. The shortcuts are just not there anymore. Visually, it's obviously better because this is a HD system. But they've shortened the track a lot. They've made it a lot easier to drive around. And like some of the shortcuts are just worse now. There's no reason to take that leaf shortcut at the start. It's slower than just driving around. It was like even with the mushroom, it's just not worth the trouble what you have to do for that. So yeah, Sky Garden is Stinky Garden. That's what we're going to call it. It's down there at the bottom. Ninja Highway though is really good. Is it iconic? Do I put it in iconic? I might put it in iconic. Ninja Hideaway is one of the best original tracks that they produced in this DLC. It's such a funny idea of going through one of those ninja trap houses with this sharp ass turn right at the start, like a square you got to drive across where you can really easily fall out. It's really funny with watching people who don't know this hit that. But then you got like the room with the spikes where there's 2 floors. I'm going to put it above. I'm going to put it even higher. I'm going to put it behind TikTok Clock. You've got like two floors. You either got the floor, the below section where the spikes fall down from the ceiling, or you got the upper section where you're jumping and getting airtime from that. The gliding section where you want to aim to be in the roofs like a proper ninja, or if you fail, then you go underground. And then you come out onto the rooftops and you get to scale roofs like a proper ninja. Like, it does a lot to make you feel like an actual ninja, while still having it be a racetrack, which is kind of funny. It's pretty cool. It's also Wario themed for some reason. Kind of makes me wish they'd put Cat and Anna in this game, because I can only assume that's what the reference is intended to be, even though in Tor it was just filled. Even in this, it's filled with Shy Guys for whatever reason. I don't know why they made it Wario themed. But Ninja Hideaway is good. This is like one of the new tracks on the Booster Course Pass that I'd like to see come back in a future game as a retro pick. Yeah, Ninja Hideaway is great. Alright, New York Minute. New York Minute is meh. I really don't like New York Minute. It's better. New York Minute is the first one of these that I think is just objectively better in Tor. I think it's obviously Tor's first track. It's its equivalent of Toad Circuit. And it's much more manageable in the original in Tor because all the laps, all the different routes are split off. But here, everything looks kind of the same, other than the park at the start and other than the section where you're actually inside. In the part that really doesn't make sense because you can see like the Statue of Liberty from outside a window, but you clearly just went underground. So what the heck is going on there? I don't think about it, I guess. But other than that, everything in between the start and end of this track is just a big mess, a big kerfuddle. Yeah, New York Minute isn't very good, is it? Alright, Mario Circuit 3. I actually think this one's okay. Yeah, I'll put it here. I actually think, even though it's this SNES track and it's very simple and they haven't really done anything to it, I think it's like the best SNES track. Like, I think Mario Circuit 3's got like one of the most interesting layouts. It doesn't have a jump like in Mario Circuit 2, but I prefer it to any of the Donut Plains tracks, and I prefer it to most of the other Mario Circuit tracks, and I definitely prefer it to all of the Ice Sherbet Land tracks or whatever. God, whatever it's called. I can't remember what the Ice World is called now in Super Mario Kart. Yeah, I think Mario Circuit 3 is one of the better SNES tracks, so I'm glad that that's here. It's not the best one in this game, although I think it's only one of 3, which should just give away what I think of the last one. But it's alright, it's good. Alright, Calamari Desert. Calamari Desert, I have two minds about it. I really like Calamari Desert in the original. I think it's one of the more iconic tracks with the train and stuff, and I do kind of like what they've done here, making you have to drive along the train track as one of its laps, its middle lap. But the track is now much shorter because of that. And it's also just super awkward because it's one of those tracks that kind of adds in obstacles to make sure you go the right way and changes depending on what lap you're on, which can look really funky even, not fun in the good way. It just kind of makes everything look a bit odd. So yeah, I think I'll put Calamari Desert because it's not a bad track, but I was disappointed in it. So I'm going to put it here. Yeah, I think that's it, which is a shame because I really like this track. I was hoping it would come back. And I do like how they make you go on the train tracks in this one. It makes it a bit more different and exciting, I guess, than the original. But I know, see, now that I say that, alright, you know, it's going to the bottom of enjoyable there. It could have been great fun, maybe even iconic, but now it's going down enjoyable. Alright, Waluigi Pinball. This one is iconic, obviously. This one's a classic. I think this goes up here in the middle between Music Park, Electrodrome, and Waluigi Pinball. In fact, no, actually I'll put it below Electrodrome. This is one of those tracks like those 3, where it's held up mainly by its aesthetics and its visuals, because when you break that down and actually look at the track layout, it's kind of, whatever. It's not as good as Music Park in terms of track layout or Electrodrome in terms of track layout, but its visuals are so compelling and so interesting and so unique that you just gotta love racing on it. And the music as well, of course. The music is a bop. It's fantastic stuff. Waluigi Pinball has a great start, and then a kind of... I think the track just sort of gets a little worse as it goes along. The big open area is fine. Obviously, that's where all the hazards are. You've got to dodge all the moving balls. But I never really have any problems doing that, and it's very easy just going a straight line. You never have any reason to go on the outer sides of it. So... it loses a bit of points for that, maybe. Yeah, I think where it is. I don't think anyone's going to complain about it being iconic. So, I don't know why I'm trying to justify it being there. So, okay. Alright, Sydney Sprint. I think Sydney Sprint is actually great fun. I think it's one of the better tour tracks in this game. I will even put it above Toad's Turnpike. I think this was the first tour track that came in that I was like, this is actually really good. And I thought this was much better than it was handled in tour as well. I really like the really long second lap that this track has, where you're basically going across. You take a slightly different turn at the front, the start, but it's pretty obvious because it's now, you're not turning right anymore, you're going in a straight line. And then you've got this really long section where you're doing turns and curves, and you go up and you get to actually experience the jump boost that you would have seen in the first lap, but you would have coming at it from the wrong angle. So you'd see this big obstacle, but you couldn't actually ride on top of it. You have to go between its like legs and around it. And then on the second lap, you actually get to, and the third lap, so you actually get to go on it and experience the boost pads, and that's really cool. I think that's a really neat idea. And the track layout itself is pretty good. So yeah, Sydney Sprint. I think this is a great track. Snowland's an okay track. It was it was an interesting track for me. I'll put it here. I'll put it here. I think Snowland was one of the Game Boy Advance tracks I had literally no memory of until it came to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Tour. And I like penguins. I like the penguin obstacles. I like what they've done to it compared to the Game Boy Advance one, which I have played now thanks to NSO. I mean, I had the game back in the day, but I don't remember much of it. But I don't think it's that interesting layout-wise. Like, it's very similar to Mario Circuit 3, actually thinking about it now, in terms of layout, but it's just a snowy version of Mario Circuit 3. And you'd think would make it better. But I don't know, maybe it's just the visuals of Mario Circuit 3 make me a bit nostalgic, even though I don't think Super Mario Kart's a very good game either. But it's the SNES vibe too. I don't know, these two are basically on the same... They both have pros and they both have cons, and the track layouts are basically identical. So I'm going to put them next to each other. Mushroom Gorge is next. Mushroom Gorge is an enjoyable level. I will put it above Mario Kart Stadium. No, actually I won't. I'll put it in between these two. I'm breaking Mario Kart Stadium and Water Park apart. I know a lot of people like Mushroom Gorge. And it's a cool idea. Track-wise, you get to bounce along all these mushrooms. It kind of gives me that Excitebike Arena vibes where you're doing loads of tricks. That's clearly what this track was made for, to get players doing tricks a lot, because that was the new mechanic in Wii. And that's pretty cool. So I totally understand why people like this track. But I don't think it's that amazing or anything. It's fun. It's a fun track. But I don't think it does anything truly outstanding, especially nowadays. So it goes in the enjoyable, but not in the other two. Sky High Sunday. I think this track is ass. So it goes in bad. It's probably the only new track, not counting the Tour City tracks, that I think is actively bad. It's just a worse version of Excitebike Arena with a weird candy aesthetic to it, and there's no real obstacles. Again, it's one of these tracks where if you get far enough ahead, you can't be touched, or if someone else gets too far ahead, you can't stop them from winning. It's just, kind of meh. So yeah, I think it's bad. I'm putting it down in the bad section. Rock Mountain. I like this track, actually. I like Rock Mountain a lot. I'm going to put it into great fun. Visually, it's not the most interesting. I think the part where you glide off... Yeah, I'll put it here. I think the part where you glide off and you got all the warp pipes blowing air everywhere and stuff is probably the best part of it from a visual standpoint. But I like the idea of it. You start on top of a mountain, you're driving around all these warp pipes, you glide off, you launch yourself all the way down to the bottom of the mountain, go through a little mini woods, and then drive back up, dodging boulders and stuff on your way up. It's simple, aesthetically, it's kind of fine, but I think the layout is cool, I think the idea behind it is cool. I think it's just fun. I think Rock Mountain's very fun. Merry Mountain is another mountain track, and it's one that I think is just okay. Probably on the lower end of okay, actually. Maybe even the lowest end of okay. Maybe even meh, actually. Like, Merry Mountain isn't like an offensively bad track or anything. Look at it drop. I say it's better than Mario Circuit, but maybe worse than Twisted Mansion. Like, Merry Mountain is just there as a track. It's a nice, fun Christmas-themed track. It was clearly made for tour to come out during the Christmas season. But all you're really doing is driving up a mountain on a bunch of boring straights and a few couple turns, and then driving down a mountain on a very boring slalom that's not as good as the Mount Wario one. The best thing about it is the part where you can ride along the tracks at the start or go underneath the tracks, really, and that's kind of it. There's a half pipe at the very top of the mountain, but yeah, it's just not very interesting. Maybe I should even put it in bad. But I don't hate it. I don't hate it. Like, if Merry Mountain was put on to race, I wouldn't complain, but I would never pick it. So that's kind of, I guess, what I'm thinking. London Loop. I liked London Loop when it first came out. I think it's crap now. I'm going to put this one under bad. It's like New York, but worse. No, I think it's better than Sky High Sunday. Yeah, London Loop has some cool level ideas, but when I replayed it again recently, I realized that it's kind of got all the same problems that New York Minute has, in that it's just really hard to tell where exactly you're going after the first lap, which routes you should take, and it's all just a big English city. I do like driving along the River Thames. Maybe I should swap the... maybe it's not bad. I'll put it above... Because now that I think about it, now I'm comparing it to New York Minute, I actually think it's better than New York Minute, but it's still not great. Like, it's not as confusing as New York Minute, but it's still not... It's still confusing, but it's got some better sections, like the section with the chain chomps and driving along the River Thames and stuff like that. And the jump on London Bridge. But everything else around that is kind of boring. Maybe part of my bias is sleeping in because I'm obviously British. I'm from London, so I recognise everything is. Yeah, I'll put it there, actually. Boo Lake. Boo Lake's enjoyable. I actually like Boo Lake. I think it's the better of the ghost tracks in this game. I think they've done a lot of good things too. I'm just trying to think of where to put it. I'll put it here, I think. I think it's a vast improvement over the GBA one. I like the underwater section. I like how the different angles that the track goes on, how it looks like a broken pier. But it doesn't do much else beyond that, which is why I don't want to put it above DK Jungle. But I like it. I think it's an enjoyable track to race on. I wouldn't mind seeing it come back in a future game. It's better than all of the other like haunted tracks from, say, the SNES game. I like it's a vast improvement over them. Maple Tree Way is great fun. I'm gonna put it here. Like, some people might find it iconic. I don't think I would go that far, at least in my personal opinion. But it is a good track. It's got a really great autumn vibe to it. It's got some good hazards on the wigglers. The rocket that launches you up into the trees is super cool. The gliding down as well from the trees towards the end is super cool. Maybe it does deserve to go in iconic, actually. I've sort of maybe convinced myself that it's better, especially looking at some of the ones. I'll put it here, actually. Yeah, you know what? I've won myself over. Maple Tree Way gets to go in the iconic section. Alright, Berlin Byways. I don't really have a strong opinion about this track, so I guess I'll put it in the upper section of OK. The Berlin Wall exists in the Mario universe, and all the implications behind that are very funny and probably the best part of the track. But I wouldn't say it's a bad track. I think it does a good job of guiding the player along where it needs to go, which is the stuff I've praised Paris Promenade for, and Sydney especially for. But I don't think it's that interesting of a track. I don't really have a lot of powerful memories from it. So I guess it just sort of goes in the okay. It didn't leave a very strong impression. Peach Gardens. Peach Gardens is also okay. I'm going to put it slightly above Berlin Byways. The benefit that Peach Gardens has is that little change they made at the end to do the track in reverse, and that's pretty cool. But otherwise, the only interesting part of it is the very brief multi-route you get to pick where the chain chomps are going in the middle of it. Which was the same on DS. That was also the best part of the DS version of the track. So it goes from being like the bottom of okay in DS to like the top of okay here. Rainbow Road. No, it doesn't go there. Rainbow Road goes in Iconic. This... Oh, is it better? Oh, it might be. It might be better than Mount Wario. Do I do it? I might do it. I think Rainbow Road 3DS is the best Rainbow Road track by like a wide margin. The music is great. The different set pieces are great. The idea behind this Rainbow Road is really good. The hazards you face are really good. I think Rainbow Road 3DS is just like a fantastic example of what Mario Kart can do with its track design. And it's a great final track. Obviously in Mario Kart 7. In here, it can be a final track if you choose to. It's the last part of the top set, so... yeah, Rainbow Road 3DS. I think it's the best track. It might even be the best track in this game. Because I can't really think of anything that's likely to beat it. Sorry, Matt Warrior, you had that position for a while, but too bad. Oh boy, Amsterdam Drift. This stage is bad. This stage is bad. In fact, you can drive me away from this stage. It's really bad. I think Amsterdam Drift kind of sucks ass. So, the beginning part is fine. You glide off into the flower fields and then you come back into Amsterdam and you turn a couple corners and you're there. But then the entire second lap is underwater and it's super boring visually and it's a super boring layout. And if you look really closely, not that you'd ever slow down, and not to be one of those people that complain about the way Toad Circuit looked, but Amsterdam Drift has that exact same problem where you can see how they've cheaped out in some areas, if you were to actually stop and look. Which I can't unsee once I saw it, so that doesn't help. And then that whole section, like, I liked in Paris where it turned you around and you did it in reverse, but I don't like how the Amsterdam does the exact same thing, and I think they've done it significantly worse. So yeah, I don't think Amsterdam is a very good track. It's also just not a very good track visually. The flowers part is fine, but I only remember the underwater part because it's so bad and you're in it for so long. So yeah, that's it's Riverside Park. Riverside Park is enjoyable. Probably on the lower end of enjoyable. Again, this is similar to Snowland. This was another track that I had like no memories of. And then they brought back for Here and Tour and done a great job seemingly updating it. I think the extra hazards are cool. I like the end part where you're inside the mountain and come out of the waterfall. Like, that's really cool. There's just nothing else really at the start of it that makes it super exciting. But I don't think it's bad in any way. Now, DK Summit, I have a tumultuous relationship with all of the DK Mountain tracks because I think most of them are bad. But DK Summit's probably the best one of the bunch. I think I would put it at the top of okay. Like, yeah, because they wouldn't be tracks that would be my first pick if I was going to play Mario Kart. But I think DK Mountain does a good job on its aesthetics. The whole snowboarding thing. I mean, it's one of the things I praise Mount Wario for, after all. The part with all the jumps in the middle is pretty good. And the actually, yeah, you know what? The more I think about this, I think DK Summit does deserve to be an enjoyable instead. I'll put it above DK Jungle, actually. I think thinking about DK Summit and just thinking about all the other, like DK Pass and DK Mountain, that DK Pass obviously isn't in this game in DS. I think DK Summit does what those tracks try to do, but significantly better. And I think it varies up its hazards enough to generate speed. I guess the part of it I don't like is I think in between the little bumps and then like the part where you're doing the sharp turns and there's the pit in the middle, I think that part's a bit boring. And I think the very top part as well, before you hit the part with all the bumps, is a bit boring. And even like visually the bump part is a bit boring, but you can get some good speed on it with the tricks. I think that's where my dislike of DK Summit comes from. But now that I've said all this and I'm thinking about it properly, I actually think it's an enjoyable track. So that one's good. Yoshi's Island. Now, if any track was going to beat Rainbow Road, it's this one. Yoshi's Island is really good. Again, my Yoshi bias is coming through. I don't know if I want to put it over Rainbow Road, but I will put it over Mount Warrior. I love Yoshi's Island. It's like one of my favourite games of all time. So having a track based on it with its visual stylings and aesthetics is great. But also the level layout is just great. You've got a very simple start, a little S, but then you go off into the water and you're underwater for a bit, driving around underwater. And then you get into the castle where you get to do the spiral up and you go up to the clouds and then you launch yourself up into the clouds. And like the volcano explodes as you're doing it. And then as you try to glide back down, you've got to try and hit the cloud, which is super hard to do, but it's so very rewarding when you do it. It's a great balance of difficulty to payoff. And then you get back to all the Yoshis, and you get to see Poochie and all stuff like this. And yeah, Yoshi's Island is great. It's the best crossover track in the game. The only reason I think I'm not putting it over Rainbow Road is because Rainbow Road does a lot hazard-wise and set-piece-wise and stuff like that to really elevate it up. But Yoshi's Island, it's there. Okay, Bangkok Rush. Worst track in the game. Even worse than Bone Dry Dunes. I don't mind this track in Mario Kart Tour, but here it's awful. It's so bad. It's like a perfect example. One of the perfect examples. I think there's only one other city track that I think does this worse, of the pushing you in different directions. And I mean, even then, maybe I'm being unfair to it, because I guess actually it doesn't do that very much, but it is confusing. That's it. It's not that it's pushing you in different directions. It's that you drive through a lot of the same areas from different directions and angles, and like you just have to. You might see a place where you know you've driven for before and assume that's the direction you should go, because a lot of parts of it look the same. Mainly that long strip where you've got a choice of going up or below, and you just sort of want to turn off into that way. Like, me and all my friends who I play it with, IRL, all hate this track. It's just, it's not a great track. I don't think it's great visually, I don't think it's got very good hazards, I think it gets a bit confusing. I would never pick this track if I have a choice. Alright, Mario Circuit DS. This one's alright. Probably put it above Moo Moo Meadows, but below Sherbet Land. Like, again, this is a track I don't really remember, despite really liking Mario Kart DS a lot. There's just nothing really happening on it. You dodge the fireballs from the piranha plants, that's pretty neat, and the Wiggler shows up on like the final lap, and that's also neat. But other than that, it's like basically straights with the occasional turn, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a fairly bog standard track. That's why it goes in okay. Alright, Waluigi Stadium. I think this is an enjoyable track. I'm going to put it here above Calamari Desert. Waluigi Stadium, they've done some changes to it, but I don't think the changes ruin the track. And the texture work is a bit weird on some places, but I don't think it ruins the track. Basically, it was already a pretty enjoyable track in Double Dash, and I don't think any of the additions or changes they've made to it ruin it in any way, but I also don't think they elevate it in any way. So it just kind of firmly sits in the enjoyable section still. Alright, Singapore Speedway, though. This is the opposite problem that Bangkok Rush has. I think Singapore Speedway kind of sucks in Tour, but what they've done to it here in Mario Kart Booster Pass is actually a lot better. I think the second lap ending, like the second lap being so long that it has to end and the third lap starts at a different point of the map is pretty neat. I think it takes advantage of like not retracing old ground enough up until like the final lap where it kind of re-goes through the Chinatown area. But that's fine. Yeah, it's like it's the way they handle it is fine, I should say. There's only really a couple of areas where it pushes you off in a different direction. So yeah, I think Singapore, and visually it's pretty neat. So I think Singapore Speedway is actually a pretty enjoyable track. Cool, we're getting to the end. Vancouver Velocity. Vancouver Velocity is an alright track. Enjoyable. I think the music... Alright, you know what? Yeah, I'll put it below Paris Promenade. So the music in Vancouver Velocity is pretty great. And the first lap of Vancouver Velocity is pretty great. But I think it's let down by a weak third lap. And the second lap is also just alright. But the music in Vancouver Velocity is ace. So it gets to go up a lot higher. And the visuals are also really cool in Vancouver Velocity. Athens Dash. I like Athens Dash. I'm also a big Greek history buff, so that's definitely masking my thing. I'll put it here, because I like Athens Dash for all the different like obstacles it has. Driving through the ruins is a cool visual. I think it does a good job again of guiding you around, but I do think that very final stretch in the final lap is a bit boring. That kind of pushes it down from great fun to me to just being enjoyable. So yeah, Athens Dash deserves to be there. Daisy Cruiser. This is another track that I might get hate for. I'm going to put it next to Sunshine Airport for the exact same reason that I put Sunshine Airport there. Daisy Cruiser is a cool idea for a track that has a very boring layout. You're effectively just driving two straights with a couple of small turns. And the underwater section that they added to Daisy Cruiser towards the end, which I think was in Mario Kart 7, is good, cool. But on the flip side of this, the underwater section that's on the swimming pool section at the top, it kind of makes that whole area pointless. Like, you're no longer driving around a lake where you can fall in and get into trouble. You just drive straight through it because there's literally no point. Like, there is no at the start of the track you have a choice to go left or right, and there is no reason to ever not pick left because it's just objectively the faster route. So like, everyone always goes for that. And then when you're on the underside of things, it's like cool that the tables are all sliding around and all that, but you're just driving in a straight line up into a sharp turn, and then you're in the underwater section, and that's it, and then it's over. So I think Daisy Cruiser is like Sunshine Airport, where conceptually the idea for the track is cool, but in practice, the level layout and stuff is a bit meh. Now, Moonview Highway is an interesting one, because I think this track is really good in Booster Course Pass. I'm going to put it there, yeah, I think that's good. The music is great. The city looks fantastic. I think there's the nighttime aesthetic is really good. You can get really high speeds on Moonview Highway, which is also really fun. And there's traffic to avoid, which seems to be a theme for a lot of tracks I like. And it's funny because I don't really have any strong memories of Moonview Highway from Mario Kart Way. But the glow-up in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is just that much of a glow-up. It's really cool. So, yeah, I like that. Squeaky Clean Sprint. I think this is also an enjoyable track. I would put it... yeah, you know what? I will put it here. I think it's up there next to Dragon Driftway as one of those new tracks that is actually pretty fun. The micro-sized bathroom driving around. It's alright aesthetic, I guess. Going into the big bathtub and falling down the sink and then being in the pipes. Like, there's a lot of cool variation here. And there's a surprising amount of secret routes at the start. Like, if you take the upper route at the end and go off the gliding path, there's like 3 different pathways you can take, which you just wouldn't normally see, and I don't know why you would ever pick them when the fastest route is objectively just going in a straight line, but it's there. There's some choice there. I don't like the turn at the bottom at the end. I always try and aim for the top part because I think that turn is a bit too wide for my liking. But yeah, I think Squeaky Clean Sprint is enjoyable. It wouldn't be my first choice of track, but I wouldn't complain if we got it, so yeah. Los Angeles laps is probably on the higher end of okay. Like, again, it's a track that I think starts really well at the front, driving along the beach, getting all across sort of jumps, and it's a track that doesn't do a lot of confusion around. Like the routes you need to take and all that. But I think the further this track goes in, the more boring it gets visually with the oil fields and stuff. And it's just slightly confusing at the end, where you suddenly have to make like 2 sharp turns to get back to the end. Like almost like they realise, oh wait, the track's ending. Quickly go this way. Yeah, just I think it starts off pretty strong and just gets worse as it goes along. But I also think the music in Los Angeles laps is just worse than it is in Tour in Mario Kart 8. It's one of the few reversals of quality, in my opinion. Sunset Wild. Sunset Wild is... Do I say it's bad or do I say it's meh? I'm going to put it on meh, but here. Sunset Wild is a track that I do enjoy in Tour, and I think it's one of the more interesting ones in the GBA game, where the Shy Guys jump on you. And obviously the visual effect, the fact that you're driving across the sunset, and by the time you get to the last lap, it's nighttime, and they don't do that here, which I'm assuming can only... The only reason I assume this is the case is because it must be a problem with the way the lighting engine runs in Mario Kart 8, because there's no excuse otherwise, because they do it in Mario Kart Tour perfectly fine. So why not? If it's an issue that it has to be, everyone has to be in the last lap before it goes to sunset, fine, whatever, make that the condition then. But I don't think you need to do that. The second someone crosses that finish line on the second lap to the third lap, you can just make it night for everyone. I don't think it needs... Because it can't be an online thing, because you can play this track online on Mario Kart Tour, so... I don't know, it's got to be something to do with the engine. But yeah, without that, it loses its main visual appeal, and it just becomes a... sorry, that was my phone. It just becomes a desert track, really. And a pretty meh desert track at that, in terms of its layout and stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I like Sunset Wilds in Tour. I really wanted it to come to the Booster Course Pass, and then it did, and I was just kind of whatever with it. Which is a shame. Alright, Cooper Cape. A lot of people like Cooper Cape. I just think it's kind of okay. You drive up, just avoiding, just making a couple turns, etc. And then you go off the half pipe and start racing down the water and fall into the pipe at the end. And the pipe is fine as well. It's a half pipe and you can get boost. I know some people don't like that. They preferred it when it was a sealed off pipe. But I just don't have any very strong opinions of Cooper Cape. I didn't think it was the best track in Wii, and I didn't think it was the best track in 7. I don't think it's the best track here. It's just kind of very in the middle. So I'm going to put it here. Alright, Madrid Drive. Madrid Drive is kind of like Berlin Byways in that it's an alright track, but it's not one I have very strong opinions about either way. Part of that might be because it's so new, being one of the final... I think, in fact, it is the final track in... the final city track in the Booster Course Pass. I just noticed that they've done the last 2 tracks in the wrong order down there, so I'll fix that in a sec. But Madrid Drive, it's kind of there. I don't think it's offensively bad. I don't think it's amazingly good either. Maybe slightly better than Berlin, but that could be recency bias. So I'm just gonna put it here. Rome, however, is not a great track. Which is a shame, because I like Rome as a city, and I think the track is great in Tour. But here, it's like a poster. In fact, actually, I might put it at the top of bad, because Rome isn't as bad as Amsterdam or Bangkok, because those are just boring tracks. But Rome is the worst offender for the "where the hell am I going?" sort of thing. Like the first lap, it's fine, but the second you hit the second lap, you do almost like a full U-turn, but then not fully. But you could do it fully if there wasn't the not wall, like if Lakitu didn't stop you, basically. So you have to do an almost U-turn, full lap, full circle, whatever, and then go off in a different direction. and all this. It's just, it gets very confusing, and then the final part of the lap is just very similar to it's the exact same area as the final part to the first lap. And so I'm just like, it ends a bit boring as well. So yeah, even though it's at night, and I like the Colosseum, I like driving through the Colosseum, and the chain chomps in the Colosseum are cool, I think everything else about it is just bad. DK Mountain is, I'm going to get hate for this, it's another bad track. I don't like DK Mountain. It's fine in Double Dash. Again, it's the Baby Parks problem. But it's like fine when you had loads of items and there were things in the way and stuff like that. But without that, all you're doing is just a back and forth down a mountain, and it's super boring. And there are boulders, yeah, and half pipes, but they're not the most exciting hazards, and they rarely get in the way. And the best part of it is the drawbridge at the end now moves. That's all I've really got. I've never liked DK Mountain, and I was on Team Dino Jungle for the final thing, and I didn't get it, which is a shame, because I think that's a much better track. But I know that I'm definitely in the minority in this, but I don't care. It's a bad track. I don't like DK Mountain. Daisy Circuit's also an okay track. It might even be the top of okay. I think it's like, it's another track I don't have very strong feelings about, and I would pick up many other tracks over it than this for the Booster Course Pass. But the Sunset vibe is okay. I like that. Daisy is it's better than Daisy Cruiser as a Daisy track. I like the layout, even if it's not the most exciting thing. I like the double donuts and the U-turn around the lighthouse. It's a nice track, but it doesn't do anything super exciting. Piranha Plant Cove is the last completely original track that they added to the Booster Course Pass. Is it? Again, I think I'll put it just behind Daisy Circuit, because I think it's a cool track visually and conceptually. And I think there's some great hazards and there's some great stuff in it, but it's not that exciting to me. And I think it's another problem that, like Rome, where the new additions of which direction you should be turning and stuff to get on the routes is a bit confusing. And especially because a lot of it just looks kind of the same. Like, there's a lot of sections where you're just driving through underwater valleys, and it's very boring to look at. And so I think it's just one of those ones, it's kind of like New York, where you can just get a bit confused about where exactly you're meant to be, but it's not as bad as New York is. So yeah, I think I'll put Piranha Plant Cove there. Rosalina Ice World. I actually enjoy this track more than I used to. I'm going to put it here. The Rosalina Ice World is a track that I didn't really enjoy in Mario Kart 7, and I didn't really enjoy it that much in Mario Kart Tour either, but for whatever reason, all of the upgrades they've done to it in Mario Kart 8 on a visual standpoint are just really good. And sitting back and thinking about it, I actually think it's a much better track than I gave it credit for. Getting the multiple choices, if you can make the top route, which is in this time is faster, unlike in Sherbet Land, where you get to see all the penguins and stuff. The choices at the end as well, where you can take the riskier but faster track with the caverns on either side, but the booster passes. They've added a shortcut towards the end if you've got a mushroom, where you can skip a corner, and that's pretty good. I think the only part of Rosalina's Ice World I'm not a big fan of is the start, where you have to make a full circle turn. And it's just not. It's easier to do in Mario Kart 7 and Mario Kart Tour. It doesn't feel as good in Mario Kart 8. But they also added half pipes to the section just after it, and that's a nice addition. So yeah, I think Rosalina's Ice World is actually pretty good here. Speaking of tracks that got the glow up, Bowser Castle 3 is actually really good in this game. I might even put it next to Neo Bowser City. Bowser Castle 3 took a fairly standard SNES track, one of the Bowser Castle ones, which are actually usually kind of annoying, but it took the best one of them and then just fully pimped it out and made it so fitting for an actual big budget Mario Kart game. And all of the new additions, and the music rocks, and the visual styles rock, and the new anti-grav section rocks. Bowser Castle 3 was a fantastic glow-up. It might be one of the best glow-ups for a track in this, and it's a great Bowser Castle to bring back. And lastly, Rainbow Road Wii. We're finally at the end of all of this, and I also think Rainbow Road Wii is a great track. Better than where I just dropped it. I'll put it here, next to Thwomp Ruins after Cloudtop Cruise. Rainbow Road Wii is another Rainbow Road that it and the Double Dash one always kind of blend together for me. They both have very similar things going on them. But again, the glow up they did here at Rainbow Road Wii is really good, and the music in Rainbow Road Wii is really good. It's no Rainbow Road 7, but it's still a really good Rainbow Road. Of all the ones they could have brought back, I think this was the right choice to make. And the section, I like, again, the double donut section with this time with the hole in the middle. But if you're going on 200cc, you can just fly right over it, and that's super fun to do as well. And there are some good nifty shortcuts in here. So yeah, Rainbow Road Wii is a good track. So yeah, this, I wonder if I can zoom out and show you the whole thing, is my tier list for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe plus Booster Course Pass. All 96 tracks ranked. It took me way longer to do this than I expected it to. Hopefully it should be easy to edit. Let me know what you think of my choices here. Feel free to absolutely flame me in the comments if like Bangkok Rush was like your favorite track or something like that. I'm sure I'm gonna get a lot of flack for DK Mountain. But yeah, I think these are the tracks. Obviously, the ones in the iconic and great fun are the tracks I would like to see come back in a future Mario Kart. And anything else below that can wait a little longer, or I don't mind. And we can leave the drive. Piranha Plant Slide can rest after being gone after being there for like the last 3 games. Bone Dry Ruin, Dunes, I'm perfectly happy with it taking the Wario Stadium 64 route and never coming back again. So, yeah, and if they bring Sky Garden back, I hope they bring back the original version and not the new version of Sky Garden. Like, yeah, I get why people are disappointed in that. Anyway, let me know in the comments what your favourite Mario Kart one was, and if you listen to all of this, great stuff. I appreciate all your support. And look forward to when my actual next fully edited video is ready. Alright, have a nice day!